Hey, welcome back. Okay, today I was going to talk a little bit about my TV shows. I'm going to be a little lighter on The Walking Dead because, well, it was about the governor, so it was, it was pretty interesting. He seems to have, I don't know, turned over a new leaf or something. We'll see how that works out, but he seems to, he hooked up with his family after the whole to-do with the, I can't remember the name of the place now, Woodbury. He burned the whole Woodbury to the ground and, and basically took put a new, I can't talk today, turned over a new leaf, so to speak, by burning everything, destroying everything, and basically becoming a new man, so to speak. So we haven't seen anybody from our prison. We've just seen the governor this week. They're just going to be next week, too. They're basically just giving us character-oriented stories, and they're showing us what happened to the governor during all this time. So it's kind of interesting. But it really didn't allow for much analysis for me because I'm still not hung up on the fact that the governor's still kind of a bad guy. I'm also still hung up on Rick running away from Daryl last week rather than telling about Carol, and I can't wait to see how that one turns out. But that being said, it's interesting, and that they're basically creating a new storyline again. And I think it was, where's Carol? But anyway, moving on. Once Upon a Time was really good this week. It had a great revelation in it. Kind of something that I saw coming a little bit, but I still was like, nah, they won't do that. And they did. And it really showed, illustrated more and more this whole theme that the show has about abandonment issues that go on with people, and how that continues to cycle through and affect the next generation. Because, we've seen it with Emma and her parents and whatever, which wasn't a willing abandonment. They didn't deliberately abandon their child. They just sent her away to be safe. It's not her fault. That's their fault. That's Regina's fault. And Regina, who still irritates me on occasion, even though I like the character, she pisses me off because she's such a hypocrite about things. It drives me crazy. Or that, the fact that she's considered a bit more trustworthy than, say, Rumpelstiltskin is right now, even though Regina is just as awful, by the way, the things she's done in her life. And yet she and Hook seem to be more accepted to the group than Rumple is at this moment in time, because don't these people understand that Anne's main way of doing things and disrupting them is to cause them to distrust each other, and that's what he did with Neil when he told him about the curse, about the prophecy that says that the boy will be Rumpelstiltskin's undoing, and he's there to kill him. So, which isn't true. We know that. We know that Rumpel's there to save his grandson. That he's really trying this time. The problem is that since the way you've lived your life, it makes you rather untrustworthy, and it makes it easy for people to doubt you. It really shows that with Neil, how easy it is for Neil to completely distrust his father. And causes this whole thing to happen, and he tells everybody else in the group about the prophecy, and of course they're all standing there with their swords, we'll protect Henry and da-da-da-da, and there's Hook and Regina are in there too, and I'm like, there's two characters that really, really are being very hypocritical right now, because the group's being hypocritical, to be honest, and I'll get into the hypocrisy of some of these people in a little bit, because there is some there. People don't think about it, but when I think about it, there is some hypocrisy here, because the reason these people think that he's so bad and so awful is because whenever they asked him for something, he wanted something in return, major in return for it. And I'm like telling these people, I'm like, hello, you were going to this guy for a shortcut to your happiness. You're going there saying, well, instead of actually doing this myself, I need help. And you're expecting to get it for free. And, yeah. there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world, okay? Now, granted, Rumple's not a great guy when it comes to things like that. But when you're dealing with a snake, you should know that you're dealing with a snake. It shouldn't be so hypocritical as to say that, oh, well, you always want something horrible in return. Well, you're asking for a major, major favor here. You're asking me to help you with something that you can't help yourself with, apparently. You're asking for this, basically. You're putting yourself in debt to somebody like this. And I think that there is a lot of hypocrisy in these people in saying that, oh, well, he's just an awful person because he's, you know, he won't do it for goodwill or the goodness of his heart. This is a very liberal mentality, by the way, I might add, and I'm trying to dump on liberals here. I'm going to do my share of dumping on one liberal in a little while. But this thing is the very thing that is that they think that they can get everything for nothing. That this person's just going to give you this, and you don't have to do any work for it. You don't have to give anything up. You don't have to make any sacrifices. Let me give you a clue here on life in general. You have to make sacrifices in order to get what you want. In order to stand up for your principles, sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes deals with the devil. That's how politics get done. That's how many things get done. It's compromise. Something some people don't want to do, or they expect the other person to do. They just expect you to be generous and do them a favor and not ask for anything in return for it. And then they're all, you know, thinking, oh, he's just a horrible thing because he wants something in return for it. That's life, people. Okay? That's life. But anyway, that's a little diatribe that I had on that. This episode focused on Rumpelstiltskin and on his father, who is not going to win any Father of the Year awards. Trust me on this. This guy is a loser. And he can't get a job because he's not trustworthy. He doesn't want to do the effort. He doesn't want to make the effort to be that. Even for his son, he can't make that effort just to be good enough and to clear it. His excuse being that everybody knows his name and nobody wants to hire him and nobody wants to give him a job. So Rumple is basically, you know, like Bay was back in the day, trying to find a way out of the situation for himself and his father. Because children, like these people, have such a great capacity to love someone who doesn't always deserve their love, but gets it anyway. He gets these magic beans from these ladies that his father left him with for a little while. One's with a spinning wheel. That explains the spinning wheel that he always does all the time. And they go and they say, we can go to some place where nobody knows your name and you can start over and we can be a family again. And his father's like, yeah, let's go to Wonderland, or, no, not Wonderland, Neverland. Let's go to Neverland. I dreamed about this place, and da-da-da, and there was so much fun there when I was a kid and everything. So they go to Neverland, and Rumple's father finds out that he's not quite what he wanted to be. He can't do anything because he's an adult with a child. He has responsibilities. And basically, what he wants is to be without those responsibilities and to be able to be a child again. And he tells his son, I wasn't meant to be a parent. I wasn't meant to do this. I don't want this responsibility anymore. He essentially sends him away, sends Rumple away. Basically emotionally abandons him, tells him that I don't want to be a parent anymore. I don't want to be this. So he sends him away. And as he sends him away, we see him turn into Peter Pan. Peter Pan is Rumpelstiltskin's father as a boy, as the age he wanted to be at. This is what he sold his child out for, is to have this and to be young forever and to have the ability to do whatever he wants and not have the responsibilities that come with being a parent and being a child. And this is a person that's probably never been a parent to begin with, because they don't deserve it. They don't deserve to have that. They don't deserve to have the love that child gave them. They don't deserve any of it, because They're selfish. They're inherently selfish. And a lot of people are like this. They want to continue to be irresponsible instead of being parents. They want their kids to grow up faster so that they can continue to have their fun. Like, I've seen this at work where people will actually take children to bars at 10 o'clock at night because they can't find a sitter. Hey, guess what? You have a kid. If you can't get a babysitter, you don't go out. That's how it works, okay? You want to go to a bar and you can't find a sitter, guess what? You don't get to go out. That's what happened with my parents. That's being responsible. That's being a parent. And Rumpel's father doesn't want the responsibility. He'd rather just run carefree through life and not have him as a child. It's a burden on his life. He considers him a burden on his life. This little boy is a burden to him. So now you get it. Now you get it. Now you understand. And now you know where everything is coming from. Neil, during this episode, they find Wendy. Neil tells Wendy this is his father, and Wendy says, "You told me both your parents died." And Neil basically says something that can describe his father as well. He says, "It was easier to lie and tell you that he died rather than tell you that your own father abandoned you." And you can see the look on Rumpel's face that says he gets this. Because he lied about his, too. He told Neil that Peter Pan destroyed his father. Didn't tell him that Peter Pan was his father. It's easier to tell somebody that kind of a story. It's easier to get them to feel that because of the emotional pain of telling somebody that I wasn't good enough for my parents. That they sold me for something. Rumpel, basically gave his son up for the dagger and immortality. Although it was a little more complicated in his case. But Rumpel's father basically gave him up to be Peter Pan and to live as a child forever. Imagine the rejection that these children feel as a result of this. And it keeps going and it keeps cycling outward. Rumpel tried everything to avoid being like his father. He ended up being just like him. And I think that if Neil knew this about his dad, if he knew who Peter Pan was, if he knew what had happened, if he knew that stuff, if Rumpel could just tell his son what happened, and why this happened, and why I did this, I think Neil would get it. Because I think Neil understands it too. I think Neil gets it. I think he knows that. And I think he wants his dad to be good. And he wants his dad to be his father. And he wants to have him in his life. But he can't trust him because he doesn't understand any of it. If he understood more of it, he might be more forgiving. He might be able to put some of that away. But he doesn't know that yet. I mean, he will, but he doesn't at this point. Anyway, Rumpel goes to Pan, telling him that I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to end this, you're, an awful dad. And his father says, well, you weren't any better. He said, yeah, but at least I tried. And Pan offers him one last chance to start over, and a chance to, you and I together could do this. We could live together in Little Neverland and be happy and together as father and son again and start right around. And Rumpel says, I'm going to start over, but not with you. And this is when it's true that you know for certain that he was here to save Henry. He was here to save Henry and save himself. And Rumpel pays for this by having Pan magically switch the Pandora boxes so that he can consume his own child into that rather than let his son put him in Pandora's box. He puts his son in Pandora's box. ultimate selfishness on the part of a parent. Ultimate selfishness on the part of a parent. Not to, you know, if he really felt sorry, if he really felt bad, and would have given himself up. If he really wanted to make his son happy, if he really cared about him. But he doesn't. He cares about himself, and that's it. We've already shown that Rumpelstiltskin actually cares about other people, even if he doesn't show it all the time. He paid the ultimate price for this. He got sucked into the box and ended up taking him his heart because he convinced Henry, his great-grandson, by the way, very interesting, that this would need to do something. So they leave us at this cliffhanger with Henry playing dead and immortal again, and Rumpel's in a box somewhere, and it's a mess, and it's cool, and I can't wait to see how they resolve this and revisit this issue, because I think it's interesting. Like I said, I love the dynamic here. I love the father-son thing that's going on here. I love that family thing that's going on there. And I think it's the most interesting dysfunction in this show is the relationship between Neil and his dad. I think is awesome, and I want to see how that turns out. I want to see it, and I want to see those two reconnect again and Neil to realize his dad really was trying to save his grandson. And I hope that happens. I hope that it does. It starts out for a while, but I think that Neil will find out sooner or later that the truth. I think he kind of already has, because he found out his father was telling the truth about the shadow and all that. But I think that's true. So let's hope that that's how it turns out. I hope that's how it turns out. The rest of my shows, I really, there's not a lot else going on. I really watched the NCIS episodes and getting kind of, I don't want to say bored with it, but it just doesn't seem the same without Ziva. Tony seems lost, and it's just weird. The other ones are, there's not enough going on for me to discuss it at this point in time. Some pretty cool stuff on Grimm with the naiads with like mermaids and stuff, and things like that, but nothing really intense to discuss on that. But there is something I do want to talk about for a second, and it involves something that happened last I hate Bill Maher. I have always detested this man. And it's not just because he's a liberal and I tend to lean a little bit more on the conservative side of things. Not completely, but somewhere in that general vicinity. I'm a gay rights supporter and all that stuff. I believe it's real to get married and all that shit too. And, I tend to be socially liberal and fiscally conservative kind of person. But Bill Maher has always pissed me off. And it's because I think he's a self-righteous, self-grandizing asshole. I think he's conceited. He thinks that he's right about everything, and his little audience of trained seals makes him feel that way. I would feel this way about anybody who acts like this on TV, who acts like they're right and everybody else is wrong, and that's just that, and you make fun of people who disagree with you. You make fun of people who believe in God. You think that they're stupid or something. People like that aggravate me. There's a lot of them on both sides. There seems to be a lot of them on that side that, yes, my liberal friends, there are jackasses on your side of the fence. And Bill Maher is one of them. And if you still love him and still watch him after this, there's something wrong. Okay? Bill Maher basically said that the Boston Marathon wasn't that big of a deal. What? Marathon bombings? Oh, it's alright. A couple of bombs went off and people lost a bunch of limbs and a couple of people died. He says, but that happens in car accidents every day. It's not like your city was trampled by Godzilla, basically, is what he said. Making fun of the fact that the Red Sox did a nice gesture, took the World Series trophy and put it on the marathon finish line in honor of those people that were killed in a horrible event that I had to watch up here on TV. In a city that I spend a lot of time in, a city that I love, an area of the city that my favorite part of that city is Copley and Boylston Street and all that stuff. I've been there hundreds of times. Apparently, this wasn't big enough of a tragedy for Mr. Maher. Apparently, well, a couple people died. Big deal. Whatever. That happens in car accidents. This is a bad day. Get over it. Bad day. That's an understatement, okay? The Challenger disaster was a bad day. I mean, 7 people died in that. But that probably wasn't big enough of a tragedy for Mr. Maher, apparently. And Kennedy assassination. 1 person died, by the way, and the whole nation was affected forever over this, okay? But it's only 1 person, right? What difference does it make if it was the president and he was shot in the head? Who matters? What does it matter that 3 people were killed in the marathon bombing and 100 people were maimed? Okay? What does that matter? Apparently it doesn't to him. It's not a big deal to him. You know? It doesn't matter that, one of them was an 8-year-old boy who was waiting for his father to get back to the finish line. And some malcontent puts a bomb down behind him and walks away. 2 grand explosions go off in this city. Right at the marathon finish line. Boylston Street sidewalks were covered in blood and limbs. Because these pieces of human garbage decided to try and blow it up. This wasn't a big deal to Bill Mahers. And a couple days later, a cop gets shot because the idiots are trying to escape. And they shoot a cop in his car. They found the guy's gun, the cop's gun, still in his holster. He hadn't even drawn it. They walked up to him in the car and shot him. Execution style. That's 4 people. But that's not a big deal. 4 people dead. People without limbs for the rest of their lives. People affected in horrible ways, without feet, without arms. Body parts strewn all over the place. Doctors are picking freaking ball bearings and nails out of these people for days. Alright? On the streets of Boston, just there to watch a marathon. Just there to watch the marathon. My own cousin was across the street. She could have been killed. This is not a big deal to Bill Mahers. Yeah, well, factually speaking, Bill, yes, Godzilla did not walk all over our city and stomp all over our city. Factually speaking, you were correct on that one. That's about the one thing you have been right about. I've always known this guy's a dick. I've always known he's an ass. I've always known he's an insensitive prick. But I really knew it then. I think everybody knows it now. You know you've gone too far when Anthony Weiner's looking at you and he's uncomfortable with what you just fucking said. A car accident, Bill. A car accident is an accident. People crash into each other, boom, die, tragedy. It happens, okay? Sad, horrible, should know where to go. A bombing is a little different than a car accident. It's a little more psychological impact. So when the Red Sox, in their parade, in a very nice gesture, did that with the trophy. Put it down on that finish line. What was it that bothered you about that, Bill? What, that they sang God Bless America and chanted USA? I know you hate the country you live in. I know that. The one that pays you all that money and everything. Yeah, I know you hate us, but is that the reason why? I don't know. I mean, the Red Sox, that was a very nice thing for them to do. That was a very human thing for them to do. David Ortiz, who actually has, a shred of humanity in him, a shred of human decency, did something nice. Put the 617 jersey on it, sat it there, and had a touching moment with a city that desperately needed it. All these things, all the things that were going on, and all the wonderful things that came out of this, all the humanity, all the love, all the things that came out of this in Boston Strong and all that stuff, that wasn't a big deal to Bill Mahers. So I guess, you may probably make a bigger deal out of a, you know, the oil rig blowing up because, you know, it destroyed the environment rather than the fact that it killed 10 people on the freaking, 10 or 12 or whatever it is on the freaking barracks. Those people were oil drillers, so they were bad people, so they deserved to die anyway. So, but 3 innocent people get killed in a bombing and 1 cop gets shot later on that week. And it's not a big deal to you, Bill Maher. It is a big deal to us. Crystal Campbell, Lindsay Chu, 8-year-old Martin Richard, and Officer Sean Collier died at the hands of awful people who should be wiped from the face of this earth. One of them already has been. Oh, may he rot in hell. The other one is in jail complaining about his prison conditions. Boo-hoo. And gets to cover a Rolling Stone. By the way, fuck you, Rolling Stone, too, for putting that little bastard on the cover. Thanks for rewarding them, for, you know, making him look like a rock star on the cover of your magazine. I don't care about your article you wrote. I don't care. Yes, the article was probably fine and good and whatever, but you put his picture on the goddamn cover as if he was a rock star. So fuck you, Rolling Stone. I will never read another Rolling Stone article because of this. Fuck Bill Maher. And people anybody who could defend him for those comments, anyone at all, is an asshole. Yes, he has the right to say it. You always have the right to say whatever you want to say. You always have the right in this country. And you know what? A lot of people fall back on that. Especially liberals. They always fall back on, well, I got a right to say whatever I want to say. My First Amendment right. Yeah, well, you know what? Just because you've got the right to say something doesn't mean you should say it. There's a thing called tact. There's a thing called decency. There's a thing called being a human being instead of being a jerk. Sometimes it's better to zip your mouth closed and not say it. Just because you've got the right to do it or say it doesn't mean you should do it or say it. People like Bill Maher are the reason that I hate politics, are the reason that I hate those shows. Because you know what? He's not even funny. Jon Stewart and Sean Colbert are funny. When they do it, they're funny. You know, they can mock liberals, they can mock conservatives, and they're hilarious when they do it. It's hilarious. It's funny. It's not mean-spirited like Bill Maher is on a regular basis. Like Family Guy was for a while there. Where it's all mean-spirited and shoving it down your throat that I'm right, you're wrong. You should be, you know, ashamed of yourself for thinking this way. People are idiots for believing in God. They're not idiots. They can believe what they want to believe. Are you any more of an idiot for believing that there was a second shooter in the grassy knoll? There's no real proof of that either. Okay? There's no real proof of freaking government conspiracies to bring down the World Trade Center tower to start a war with Iraq or whatever stupid conspiracy theory people are coming up with these days. I hate those too. But Bill Maher, you are an asshole, and you deserve every ounce of criticism that you are going to get for this. Every ounce. And I hope that it continues to fall on you. And I love trying to hear your explanations of what you meant by that. Boston was hit by a terrorist act, by a domestic terrorist act, by some malcontents who wanted to prove some political point. That's not a car accident. It's a little more than that. But anyway. That's all I want to say on that, because if I keep talking, I'm going to get more and more pissed off and riled up, and I'm going to start, like, throwing things. Because that's what that had the effect on me of having when I saw it happen. Because I just sit here 30 miles away and watch it unfold on television. And it was a big deal. It was a big deal, and I still tear up thinking about it. Whenever I see that picture of that little boy in his Bruins jersey, smiling in front of the camera. That is a big deal. Every death is a tragedy. Every death is a tragedy. But anyway. Last things last. Bruins won back-to-back games. They're now in first place in the conference. Thank you. And seem to be writing this. Seem to have seem to righted their ship for the most part, except for that blip against Ottawa, which I hope is just a blip. Now, I've got to wrap this up because I got things to do today. Today's my day to get chores done around the house, and I'm going to get some chores done. But I wanted to say hi, and I wanted to talk, and I wanted to show you that I was angry. And I want to get that anger out into the open where it belongs. So I don't have it boiling in me for the rest of my, rest of the week. So, like I said, anybody who watches this, thank you, whatever. I know people probably don't, but it's good for me to get it out. So thank you, and next week, we'll see. We'll see what's going on next week. We'll see what's interesting to talk about next week. Maybe I'll be caught up with my NCIS then, and maybe I can have an opinion on the new girl. Anyway, talk to y'all later, folks. Bye-bye.